Hello and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I am Kashif Kamran and welcome to the AA Webinars to Success for September 2024 exam. Let's see what is the agenda of this particular webinar. Now, firstly, this webinar is being conducted when your exams are just 10 days away. So formulating a 10 days study strategy is very important. Now, all of you need to self-evaluate yourself as of today to identify where are you standing in terms of your exam preparation. Now, everyone will have a different answer to that because everyone will be standing at a different position or a different situation. What is done and what is still need to be done is something you need to ask yourself because you need to fill in the gaps over the next 10 days. Now, you are very familiar with your challenges, with your obstacles. So sitting down today, thinking about the next 10 days, how would you develop a strategy which will enable you to be successful in the upcoming exams? That is the very first thing you should be doing, because without a timetable, without a certain planner, you will be wasting your next 10 days. You need to formulate a timetable where you are keeping a balance between section A and section B in terms of revision, in terms of approach, in terms of fine tuning, because both the sections are extremely important for your success in the AA paper. Yes, the section B dominates the paper. It's 70% of the paper. You need to be more concerned about it, but you cannot just spoil the section A. So you need to give some time over the next 10 days for a quick revision of the section A as well. That is doing plenty of OTQs over the next 10 days, and I'll be guiding you about that. You have 10 days from now. That is 240 hours at your disposal, which is utmost important. Now, it is up to you. How would you go about utilizing these 240 hours? You might be doing a single paper in September. You might be doing multiple papers in September. You might be repeating the AA paper, or you might be giving it for the first time. In different scenarios, in different situations, you are the best judge of how would you go about utilizing these 240 hours, and every hour within this 240, it does count in terms of your success in the upcoming exams. You need to focus on OTQs, and I'll be guiding you about that shortly. You need to focus on the past papers. You need to focus on some very important technical articles and examiner reports in the last 10 days you have. And I'll be speaking of each one of them shortly, how they contribute towards your success and how important they are as part of your 10 days study approach. Let's open up the broad spectrum and let's start to investigate first the section A of the paper. Now, you are all very familiar that the section A of the paper, if you look at the pie chart at the bottom of the screen, does show you that section A of the paper is 30% in the weightage. What is the best approach you can take now for the section A, and how can you assure yourself that you're performing better in the section A? On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see before exams, and on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see on the day of exam. Let's first start the analysis from before exams and see what exactly you need to do before exam. So in terms of before exams, which is the time now and the next 10 days, Study Hub, the ACCA Study Hub, is a very important resource. On the Study Hub, you have 170 OT questions, which are divided into 31 topics. Now, that is important. You have a section marked practice and quizzes on the Study Hub. Within that, you will find 170 OT questions divided into 31 subtopics. That is one resource which should be utilized over the next 10 days. Next is the examiner reports. Each of the following examiner reports, which you can see on your screen, which is March, June 24, September, December 23, March, June 23, September, December 22, March, June 22, and September, December 21. Each one of them has 5 OT questions. And there are a total of 6 reports. So 6 multiplied by 5, you're getting 30 more OT questions. Now you're already reaching 170 plus 30, 200. Then you have the ACCA pre-September 24 mock available on the practice platform. And in that pre-September 24 mock, there are 15 OTQs, just like a normal paper. Add that up, it's coming to 215 OTQs you have at your disposal. You have 10 days, divide that by it, it's approximately 21 a day. So if you make a target that I'll do 21 OTQs a day, you're fitting the 10 days timetable. Now, some of you must have already done the study hub. Some of you must have already finished off the 170 OT questions. You might need to do the examiner reports, and you might need to do the pre-September 24 mock. That is why I started with a self-evaluation. That is important because you are the best judge of yourself where you are standing. So out of these 250 OTQs, how many have you done? How many is remaining? Divide that by 10, see how much you need to do per day. Now, if anyone has not used Study Hub and you don't want to use it in the last 10 days, you can still rely on the Kaplan or the BPP kits, because a lot of time I've seen students, they're doing the OTQs from the Kaplan kit or the BPP kit, which is wonderfully fine. No issues with that. So if you've already completed a Kaplan kit or a BPP kit for OTQs, perfectly fine. At this point in time, no need to indulge into Study Hub. If you've already done Study Hub, good. But if you were if you still have time and you've not done the OTQs from the Kaplan kit or the BPP kit, and you want to do plenty of OTQs, then at this point in time, going to the Study Hub would be very, very important for you, particularly for the students who are repeating the AA paper. I think you should invest a lot in the Study Hub. So this is one side of the picture, 215 OTQs, and you are the best judge. How would you go about in the next 10 days? Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, you see on the day of exam. Now, you've prepared a lot on section A. You've done almost 250 OTQs. You must have done the BPP kit or a Kaplan kit, whatever. You're very well prepared on section A. You enter your real exam. And in the real exam, 30% of the paper is on OTQs. That's the section A. There are 3 OT cases. You're very familiar with that. Each OT case contains 5 OT questions. So in total, you have 15 OT questions in your real exam. Each is worth 2 marks. So that's a total of 30. The time management you have for the section A is 54 minutes. I've already made the emphasis on that in my June 24 webinar as well. 54 minutes you have for your 15 OTQs. So how much time you have per OT question? You have 15 OTQs and you have 54 minutes. That means you have 3.6 minutes per OTQ. So that is important. So you're not just rushing. A lot of time I've seen student in a hurry to complete the section A. At times, students just wrap up the section A in like 15, 20 minutes, whether they're giving the right answers or the wrong answers. They're not worried about that, but they're just in a speed to finish off the section A. I don't understand why. You have 54 good minutes for section A. You need to be very careful. You need to read an OT question very well. You need to ensure that you're getting the right answer. You need to read it twice if you think that is a difficult OT question. You can read it twice and then think about what is the best answer. You can click in. But if you are confused with an OTQ, don't just spend much time on it. Just move on and come back to it later. So that's how you are going about with the section A on the day of exam, ensuring you're giving the best possible time you have for that particular section. Okay, now moving towards the section B and looking for excellence in section B, what exactly you can do in section B and how you can ensure you're taking a good command in section B ahead of your September 24 exams. Now, when you look at the section B, it's 70% of your total paper, and that's what you can see in the pie chart in front of your screen, a bigger chunk of that pie chart, 70%, that's a big slice going to the section B. And that's very, very important how you perform in that section, because that will really decide whether you're failing or passing the AA paper. You have 126 minutes versus the 70 marks you have in the section B. Now that's plenty, because already the 54 minutes have gone into section A. Now you're doing 3 questions within this 126 minutes. Again, the June 24 webinar, I did the split of time which you should have for a 30 marks question, for a 20 marks question, and then for a 20 marks question, because you're very familiar. There are 3 questions in section B: 30, 20, and 20. So you can just have, you can just do the pro rata basis of this 126 minutes over the 3 questions. Audit risk and responses, you're all very familiar. That is one of a key question you get in section B. The good thing with section B is it is so predictive. You know what exactly comes in section B. If you do the recent papers, you will be fully assured of the types of questions you come across in section B, and you can be fully prepared with them. You can do plenty of questions around audit risk and responses. I'll be telling you how many. Control deficiencies and recommendations, finding deficiencies in internal control with test of controls or without test of controls. At time the question asks you that you need to recommend the test of control even. Direct controls and test of controls, or key controls and test of controls, is another very frequently asked question. Substantive procedure, again, that's a bigger chunk of section B. You need to be very well versed into substantive procedure. Reporting implications, the impact on the opinion, the impact on the report. We know that's for few marks. Questions around subsequent events, adjusting and non-adjusting events, or accounting issues within that reporting implication is quite a normal question, and that's mostly the question 3 worth 20 marks. Knowledge of reporting around CAM. We have seen past papers where examining team has tested your knowledge about key audit matters, how clear you are about key audit matters, and so on and so forth, or knowledge about MURGC paragraph. Corporate governance weaknesses and recommendations at times do come in section B, not very frequently, but it could be 1 in 6, 7 exam settings that examining team can put something about governance weaknesses and recommendation. Even ethical issues and safeguards at times comes in section B, but again, that's not very frequent. Quality management issues. In the March-June 24 paper, there was a question on quality management issues. You need to identify the quality management issues from a scenario and give actions. Now we know ISA 220 revised is part of the AA paper. You should be well versed with ISA 220. You should be well versed with the question which came in March-June 24 exams around quality management, and you should be prepared on this topic, because this is more of a recent addition in the AA paper, and the emphasis is coming from the examining team. So you might see this emphasis into the other exam sittings for 2024 as well. So just don't take a risk on quality management. Do 7 recent papers on the practice platform. There are 7 recent papers available on the practice platform from 2021 up to 2024. So there are 2 papers for 2021, 2 papers for 2022, 2 papers for 2023, and 1 paper for 2024. If you do these 7 papers for section B, you know what is coming. You know how things are examined in section B. You will take a good control of audit risk and controls and direct controls and substantive procedures, perhaps everything. So these 7 papers should be your focal point over the next 10 days. You need to evaluate yourself. Out of those 7, how many have you done? How many is remaining? And have you taken a good control? Do you have a reasonable assurance on the section B core areas? One thing more, which I would like to emphasize more, is the examiner report. At least 1 examiner report is to be read. This is not the examiner report for the ODQs. That was, I've told you the 6 examiner reports you should be doing for the OTQ, but this is an examiner report which you are doing for section B, the latest one, the March-June 24 one, and you're sitting down with it and you're going through it and you're identifying reasons why students fail in section B. That is important. I'll be emphasizing more on this March, June 24 examiner report, how critical it could be shortly. So this is in front of your screen, a section B analysis. You know it's a bigger chunk in the pie chart. You know the time allocation versus the marks. You know the key areas which comes through it. You need to do the recent 7 papers. You need to excel around that and at least ensure you're going through the March, June 24 report and identifying reasons why students fail in the section B. Now, some more analysis of the March, June 24 examiner report, how critical that is if you're ignoring what can be the implications of ignorance. March, June 24 examiner report will be crucial for you to read over the next 10 days. You need to keep one specific day, few hours of one day where you need to sit down with this particular examiner report and do it. Ignorance is disastrous, can lead you to failing in the AA paper. So it is very important that over the next 10 days, you find time where you have time, sit down, relax, read it like a story. Read it like a story. Just keep 90 good minutes of the 240 hours you have. Just 90 minutes, just 1.5 hours of the 240 hours you have. Read through the section B of the examiner report and keep a red and a green pen with you if you are reading it in a hard copy, in a printout form. Or you can use the highlighter options in the PDF version if you're reading it in a PDF file on your screens over the laptop. You need to identify the do's and don'ts, red and greens. The red is danger, the green is something positive. So you need to do that analysis in 90 minutes with a lot of reds, a lot of greens. And at the end of the day, you can make a summary of the reds and the summary of the greens. And the next day, keep good 30 minutes revising the summary of the reds and the greens. Just reinforce that. And after you have absorbed the reds and greens of audit risk, responses, procedure, reporting questions, control issues, test of controls, perhaps everything which comes in section B. Once you know the do's and don'ts, you have revised them, you have reinforced them. Now do a question paper. Now do the mock paper. Ensuring whatever you have learned in red and green, you are avoiding the reds when doing the mock paper. You are implementing the greens. You are reinforcing the greens when you're attempting the mock paper. And you will be amazed at the quality of your answers. That's what you need to do. You need to impress your marker in September 24 to get passed. Not just passed, get good marks. So for that reason, to me, the March, June 24 report and the time you're giving on it, like 120 minutes, 90 days for the first reading, 90 minutes, sorry, for the first reading, and 30 minutes for the second reading. That's 120 minutes. Out of the 240 hours you have, you're giving just 2 hours to it. And the impact it will have will be wonderful. And the ignorance will be disastrous. I hope you will take those 2 hours out and you will sit down seriously with this examiner report and investigate it thoroughly. So it will boost your answer quality and will make you realize the issues you do in writing the answers, and you will be amazed. But if you're not aware of the issues and you're going with those same issues into the exam hall, imagine you might be booking the next exam sitting for December. So ensure this resource is used in the next 10 days. Wherever you find time, just fit this up. You just need maximum 2 hours, spread over 2 days, and that is the best you can do. Okay, articles to brush over now. Over the next 10 days, there are some important articles which you can brush over from the technical articles of AA, laws and regulations. You know, knowledge questions do come around laws and regulations, like audit of responsibility for laws and regulations, something like that. Audit of assertions, you need to be very good on assertions, particularly for the section A questions around OT cases. You should be good on assertions. We do get questions around OT, around assertions. Audit in a computer-based environment, you might get some knowledge questions around audit in a computer-based environment for 5 to 6 marks. Be ensured you brush over that article. Audit of wages, particularly this article is important of helping you with the deficiencies in a wage system, control issues in a wage system. And also this article helps you with around the substantive procedures around wages. Going concern, We know that's an important area. You should be crystal clear on going concern, the reporting implications of going concern, procedures you can make on going concern, because again, that's one of an area which too comes in section B. Subsequent events, be very clear about adjusting, non-adjusting, auditor responsibility up to the date of the audit report, using the work of internal auditor. You should know the criteria on the basis of which the external auditor decides to use the work of the internal auditor. Very important articles, very good articles, a total of 7 over the next 10 days. That's just one a day, and you will be finishing off this in 7 days agenda. But that is important. Specific section B reasons why a student failed to impress marker. You will be reading the examiner report. I hope so. But I thought I should make a summary of reasons why student tends to underperform in section B or fail to impress the marker. Number one, in an audit risk question, students do not address the underlying risk and its impact on the financial statement. They do identify the risk from the case study, but they either fail to elaborate on what is the risk. Like, for example, a disclosure is not given, that is a risk. Or for example, the revenue is wrongly recognized, that is a risk. For example, the loan has been wrongly classified as a non-current liability, or the loan has been wrongly classified as a current liability. Wrong classification is a risk. No disclosure is a risk. A wrong recognition is a risk. The inventory is inappropriately valued. That is the risk, inappropriately valued. Risk is what the management has done wrong. At times, the student fail to pick what the management has done wrong, or have they capitalized the revenue expenditure as a property, plant, and equipment. That is a wrong recognition, that you have recognized a revenue expenditure as a capital expenditure. So you need to identify what is the risk, what the management has done wrong, and what is the impact of that wrong on the financial statement. If the management has not given a disclosure, then financial statements are materially misstated. If the management has inappropriately valued the inventory, then inventory is overstated. So you need to be very sure of that. If the management has classified the loan wrongly as a current liability, then your current liabilities are overstated and your non-current liabilities are understated. There are two things which are different here, and you need to be very sure of those two things. One is the risk, one is the impact. If you are picking up the risk and not impact, you're still scoring 0.5 marks. You need to be focused on both risk and impact. So when you're writing in your answer, be assured that you have written the risk, what the management has done wrong. Check your answer. And have you written the impact, like an understatement or an overstatement, or where a disclosure has not been given, financial statements are materially misstated. These are two very important parameters which goes missing in a student answer on audit risk. When you're crafting responses, audit risk and responses, and when you are crafting the responses, beginning with ensure is incorrect. Examining team is not happy that you start a response with ensure. Instead, start with the auditor action, like review something, discuss something, analyze something, recalculate something, inquire something, inspect something, because response means what the auditor will do to mitigate the risk. Ensure means you're confirming something, but you need to start with an action to show this is a response of the auditor. So always start a response with an action, not with ensure, but the action is something as if you're writing a procedure: review, discuss, analyze, inquire, inspect, recalculate, observe, reperform. These are all actions, right? This is all actions which demonstrate what is the auditor doing. Procedures. Third very important area. Immerse yourself in the given case. Now, procedures in AA comes with a cases. Every time the examiner will give you a case and ask you make 4 procedures or 5 procedures on a given case. It could be share capital, it could be a director bonus, it could be payables, it could be trade receivables, but you will have a short scenario with it. You need to immerse yourself in that scenario and you need to ask a question. What will the auditor do to verify the statement presented in the scenario? When you're reading the scenario, there will be statements in the scenario. Every full stop is a statement. Think about that statement and ask a question. What will I do here to verify it? What will I do here to check it? What will I do here to check the source document? What will I do here? Should I recalculate this? Should I inspect a source document? Should I review the board minutes? Should I take a representation letter? Should I observe something? You need to ask a question to yourself. What will I do for the statement to verify, to gather sufficient appropriate audit evidence? And develop a procedure starting with an action word, just like you're crafting a response in number 2. Make sure each procedure has a clear reason to earn full mark. Every procedure should have a reason to confirm. If you're reviewing the board minutes, what's the reason? If you're recalculating depreciation expense, what's the reason? Or if you are reviewing the cash book, what's the reason? Or if you are inspecting the fixed asset register, what's the reason? Every procedure should have a reason, so to make it a complete procedure. So please ensure you immerse yourself in a scenario, whatever scenario is given to you in the AA paper. Involve yourself, ask a question, what will I do to verify this? That will really help you identify a procedure. Every procedure should be followed by a reason. Students often fail to justify why a control is key or direct. They do identify a key control, they do identify a direct control from the scenario, but although they identify that correctly, they do not elaborate on how the control is mitigating the risk, because any control which is mitigating the risk is a key control, is a direct control. But a lot of times the student pick up the key control, but they fail to identify how it is mitigating the risk, because you need to elaborate on that. So, for example, if the employee clock in and clock out system at a factory, you have a clock in and clock out system at a factory, right? Which is being supervised. There is a person sitting and supervising it. Now, that will ensure that only the genuine employees are paid. That will ensure that you're not claiming any bogus hours, or you're not claiming for the hours you have not worked, because the clock in and the clock out system is being supervised, and that is a good control. If it is not supervised, that is a control deficiency. If it is supervised, that is a good control, a key control. But what is the reason? Because it's mitigating the risk that only it is mitigating the risk that only the genuine employees will be paid. No bogus hours will be claimed. So you need to elaborate upon that to make it a better answer around key control or direct control. Regarding the control weaknesses, we know control weaknesses comes a lot in the AA paper. Student pinpoint the weakness accurately, but do not discuss the potential implication. What may go wrong for the organization? So you do pinpoint the weakness, but you don't identify the implication of the weakness. What may go wrong? So if there is a weakness like the clock in and clock out system is not supervised, and not supervised is a weakness, but what's the implication? That means employees can claim bogus hours, or the non-genuine employees can be paid even though if they have not worked. The ghost employees could be paid, which are not on the payroll. So implications. So that is the critical point there, right? In a reporting question, students struggle to comment effectively on the accounting treatments and fail to provide a proper justification for their qualified opinion, often concluding their answers too abruptly. If you're saying this will lead to a qualified opinion, you need to give basis. First, you need to justify that it is a material misstatement. You need to comment on the materiality. You need to justify that this is a wrong accounting treatment. It's a wrong accounting treatment. That means it's a misstatement. That misstatement has a value. The value is material. You calculate the materiality. You comment on the materiality. And on all that basis, being a material misstatement, you should issue a qualified opinion. A qualified opinion should be followed by a basis of qualified opinion where you justify the reasons of giving a qualified opinion. You should elaborate. You cannot just abruptly say, because of the material misstatement, the auditor will issue a qualified opinion, full stop. You didn't elaborate it on the material misstatement. You didn't elaborate it upon that a qualified opinion should be followed by a basis of qualified opinion, justifying the reasons why you've given the qualified opinion. So try to go over these 6 points on your screen, relate it with your answers, ask a question to yourself, am I doing these mistakes? Am I missing on the risk and impact in an audit risk answer? Am I starting the responses with ensure? Am I writing the procedures where I'm not immersing myself in the case study? Or am I just identifying the direct control and the key control, but I'm failing to elaborate upon them? Or am I writing a weakness without the implication? Or am I writing a reporting question which is too short and I'm just abruptly closing it? I hope this will help you out with a good preparation for your upcoming exams. Now, just let me give you an idea. We are taking some examples from the March June 24 paper, something I just discussed with you. Just let me take on the practice platform. But just before that, something I've emphasized a lot today, I hope you can see that in front of your screen, the March June 24 examiner report. You need to go through it. Section B. The section B is starting from page number 6. Section A is what you are using for the OT questions, right? So you can do the OT questions, 5 of them from section A, which I've guided as well. But section B, you click on section B and you come here and you can see the section B on your screen. The first question, describe 8 audit risk in the March June 24 paper. And the examining team is then telling you what was good, what was bad. See this paragraph here, see this commentary here. And it's not just here, it's going on and on and on. Very long commentary. You need to keep a red and green pen with you. See what student do good in an audit risk question, what they do bad. And this way, you need to read down from page number 6. And this report is continuing from page number 6 to almost page number 22. So that is like 16 pages of commentary on section B, 70% of your paper, March, June 24. So please ensure, firstly, you attempt the March, June 24 paper. You have your answer ready for March, June 24 paper, and then sit down with the section B examiner report and keep your answer with you. And just keep checking. If the examiner says this should not be done, and that is in your answer, you say, okay, cross. This should be in the answer. Oh, that's in my answer. Tick. You can self-evaluate your answer. You can self-evaluate how much will I score from this answer. And the best part is when you're self-evaluating your learning, at least you will not do the mistake you have already done in the March, June 24 paper. So answer should be with you for the March, June 24, which you have written. Sit down with this examiner report and then self-evaluate. In that way, you will be finding the do's and don'ts. You will be marking your script and you're preparing yourself for the mock exam, and you will do better in the mock. Okay, now just one last thing quickly. That's to focus on the practice platform for the March, June 24 paper. I hope you can see this practice platform in front of your screen. This is the March, June 24 exam. I'm not going over it, but I just want to emphasize on some of the issues the student do and they fail to impress the marker. In an audit risk question, we just discussed that in an audit risk question, you need to ensure that you are writing every risk with an impact and you are identifying the risk and the impact. And for the responses, you're not starting it with ensure. Now just go through it. In the very first paragraph here, it is telling us that it is the first year audit. Planning your first audit. Now, we know first year audit itself is a specific risk. We have a detection risk because we have less knowledge of business, and you need to write in a procedure. For example, you'd write over here, this is the first time Peel and Company will be performing the audit of Green Company, which means that Peel Company will have less knowledge of green business, which increases the overall detection risk in the first year audit. Now that's very simple. Detection risk is written this way, right? In detection risk, we're not saying understatements and overstatement, because in a first year audit, the only issue is that we have a high detection risk because we are not very familiar with green company business. We will gain knowledge over the passage of time. Now then you need to write in the audit response, a more senior audit team needs to be assigned for the first year audit to reduce risk to an acceptable level with a proper timetable and identification of risky areas where the team needs to focus more. So being the first year audit, you should have a proper timetable. You should have proper identification of the risky areas where the more senior team should be looking into and avoiding and reducing down the detection risk. That's how you write the response for a detection risk. Okay, one more thing. Over here, it says the company was formed 13 years ago by Aiden White, who is the chief executive officer and is the only shareholder. So it was formed 13 years ago by chief executive officer Aiden White, and he's the only shareholder. Aiden is planning to retire within the next year and is intending to sell his shares in the company. He's intending to sell his shares in the company. Now, whenever a person like Aiden has an intention to sell the shares, he will be manipulating the financial statements. He will be fabricating the financial statements. He might be overstating the profits and the assets so that he can fetch a good share price. So there is a risk of a management bias here because this person wants to sell the share over the next year. He will fabricate the financial statements. He will present a better outlook of the financial statement. So at the end of the day, he's getting a good share price. So this is creating a risk of a management bias. So you pick up this point. Aiden is planning to retire within the next year and is intending to sell his shares in the company. Control C. And you bring this down in the audit risk right over here. And you start elaborating upon it. And is intending to sell his shares in the company. This give rise to a risk of management bias, as Aiden will be interested in fetching a good share price to sell his shares. And this will lead to a manipulation. This can lead to a manipulation of results in the financial statements. Already, now if you're a clever student, you will go down and you'll say, is there anything increasing already? Because he wants to sell the share. You go down and you see the revenue. The revenue has increased from 85.1 million to 88.2 million. You will find the percentage of how much it is rising. And you can already see the gross profit rising from 20% to 26%. So there are some indicators that already the fabrication is taking place, a rise in the gross profit margin, a rise in the revenue. You need to find out the percentage. I'm not doing that in this webinar. Already, revenue is increasing by a fill in the blank percentage, and the gross profit margin has increased from 20 to 26%. Therefore, profits could be overstated. Profit and revenue could be overstated. Profits and revenue could be overstated because he wants to sell a share at a good price. Now, when we come to the audit, we need to be more skeptical in the areas around profit and revenue. We need to be more focused on procedures around revenue. Auditor should increase the sample size and be more skeptical around revenue, particularly revenue cutoff, because he might record revenue early, revenue cutoff, or revenue occurrence, as Iden could possibly overstate revenue. So I need to be more skeptical about a revenue occurrence and revenue cutoff, because these are the two important assertions which could be misused by Iden to overstate the revenue. And I should increase my sample size around that. See, this is how you're writing the audit risk and responses, and see how you connected the Iden point with the numbers, financial numbers. You need to interlink things where possible. There could be a situation in the exam which can be connected with the numbers given. So correlate them, boost your answer quality. That's how you're writing in the answer. Okay, you move down. Next question. It's a simple question asking you explain the responsibility of the auditor under ISA 250 laws and regulations. I even recommended you to read the article on laws and regulations. It says you need not to refer to the scenario when answering this question. At times, students don't read such note numbers. This note number is saying no reference to the scenario. This is just a direct knowledge question for 4 marks. Next, you have a question around substantive procedures in respect of the additions to the green company property, plant, and equipment. So you need to write a procedures around additions to the property, plant, and equipment. So you will put a heading over here, additions to property, plant, and equipment. And there must be a statement in the scenario which tells you about the addition to the property, plant, and equipment. So you need to find where is that particular paragraph. 4 marks, 4 procedures. Okay, the paragraph is right over here. From here to here. Just let me highlight this in green. In August 20X4, the company began to refurbish the retail stores in order to incorporate cafes into each one. The refurbishment cost were recognized within the property, plant, and equipment at 14.2 million. So how much is the addition in the property, plant, and equipment? 14.2 million. That is basically a part of a refurbishment. Begin to refurbish the retail stores in order to incorporate cafes into each one of them. So they want to open up the cafes in each of the retail stores. They're doing refurbishment of the retail stores at a cost of $14.2 million, which all has been recognized as property, plant, and equipment. Again, there is a risk here, which you can write in the audit risk, that what if all the entire amount should not be capitalized? Some of this must be expensed out. You need to see the breakup of this 14.2 million to identify which of them met the criteria of IAS 16, which could be capitalized and which could not be capitalized. You could write this in the audit risk and audit responses. Addition, 14.2 million addition. What can we do? We can write the typical procedures on addition. We can check a sample of additions to the purchase invoices, review a sample of additions, to the property, plant, and equipment, to support documents like purchase invoices, to confirm the amount and the rights ownership of the assets in the name of green company. So you can check these purchase invoices. That will assure that the asset belongs to the green company. And you can also confirm the cost of the asset back to the fixed asset register to confirm the cost and the rights and ownership of the assets in the name of the green company. You can also check the depreciation policy of these additions to the property, plant, and equipment. You can review the depreciation policy. You can discuss the depreciation policy of this $14.2 million addition which has been made in. So I'm not just giving you a full procedure, but you can make a procedure around the depreciation policy of these depreciation policy around the addition. You can make one procedure here. You can make one procedure around recalculation of the depreciation around the additions. Recalculation of depreciation around the addition, right? You can also check the physically inspect, right? A physical inspection can also take place. Physical inspection of the property, plant, and equipment addition on a sample basis. So whenever there is an addition, we can check addition for cost, we can check addition for rights, we can check addition for depreciation policy, we can check addition for physical inspection, that whether it exists or not. So some sort of those procedures can take you to 4, but you need to develop them with proper reasons, starting them with an action verb like review, like recalculate, like discuss, something like that, just like I wrote the first one. Then you go down to the next one. This is what I was telling you. This is a sort of a new question which has come in the March, June 24 exams. Please ensure you have a good knowledge of the ISA 220. This question is saying, identify and explain 3 quality management deficiencies in respect of the approach adopted by Teal Company and provide recommendation which should address each deficiency. So you need to identify 3 quality management deficiencies in the table. And for each deficiency, you need to tell a recommendation on how to overcome the deficiency. You should be well versed with ISA 220. You should know what are quality management deficiencies. It's so easy to identify from the scenario because they're very easy to pick up. But for each deficiency, you need to tell the recommendation. And for each deficiency, you need to tell the implication of the deficiency on the audit process. So for each deficiency, you need to tell the implication on the audit, the implication for the audit. Just like you're writing a control deficiency for the client, so you tell the implication of that for the client. Over here, you're telling the implication for the audit process. What must have gone wrong or what will go wrong in the process of the audit, and then giving a recommendation. So please ensure you brush over this. As a student, this is an important topic, an emerging topic. Okay. Then you have questions on deficiencies and writing matters, why a deficiency would be considered as significant. I just want to discuss one reporting question with you, how to write the answer, because students at times abruptly end a question around reporting. Direct controls and test of control, we discussed the issues under that. Please ensure you brush over this as well. Then you have control deficiencies and control recommendations. Again, you have substantive procedures around valuation of inventory. Now, I was saying you should immerse yourself in a scenario. Valuation of inventory, you can see there is a paragraph on inventory here. You will indulge yourself in this paragraph. You will ask questions to yourself. What should I do? What should I do to gather evidence? At every full stop, at every sentence, ask a question. What should I do to gather evidence? And you will start gathering evidence. You should start getting the procedures at the end of the day. Okay, the next one where I need to focus time on is a question around reporting. Yes, this one. Discuss the issue and describe the impact on the report if this issue remained unresolved. This is where I find students abruptly writing the answer. It's a 5 marks question. At least there should be 5 good sentences, paragraphs to make up a 5 marks impressive answer. Let's see what is the issue. Discuss the issue. If I'm writing the answer, it says, the final audit is now nearing completion and you are reviewing the financial statements. The directors have told you that they've decided against the redundancy provision of $1.8 million. So directors are not providing a redundancy provision. They have decided against the redundancy provision of $1.8 million for the year ending 31st of May, as the closure of the shop will not take place until September. So what is the grounds they're not providing a redundancy provision at the year end? Because they think the closure of the shop will take place after the year end in September 20X5. Let's see, do we have a paragraph on redundancy provision given in the left? Yes, we have. In May 20X5, which is the year, which is Okay, May 20X5 is the year end of the company, right? In May 20X5, the management of Cookit decided to close down one of the shop as it is unprofitable. An announcement of this decision was made on the company website in May, on 28th of May, that is before the year end, and the staff was informed of the closure. So see, you have a constructive obligation. You took this decision before the year end. You communicated it on your website of your intent to close. You even communicated it to the employees who were affected that we're closing down the shop, so you will be made redundant. This all has happened on the 28th of May, that is 2 days prior to the year end. All 32 staffs employed in the shops are to be made redundant, with a redundancy provision of $1.8 million expected to be included in the financial statement. The closure will take place in September. Now, do we need to recognize the redundancy provision at the year end, even though the closure will take place in September? Yes, because we have a constructive obligation. They have communicated it on the website. They have informed the stakeholders affected on the 28th of May, that is before the year end. So a provision is to be recognized in the year end financial statements. Management is not doing that. So currently that means the liability is understated and the profit is overstated. Let's discuss the issue. When you're discussing the issue, you need to write the accounting treatment, right? The redundancy provision, the redundancy announcement, the redundancy announcement was made on the company website, and the employees affected through this decision were communicated on 28th May 20X5, which is before the year end, which is before the year end. This announcement on the website and the communication to staff give rise to a constructive obligation and a reliable estimate of the redundancy provision was made at $1.8 million. Therefore, a provision should be recognized because we have a constructive obligation. A reliable estimate is already made. Therefore, and it has a probable outflow, right? It will take place in September 20X5. Therefore, a provision should be recognized at the year end, 31st of May 20X5. Now, a provision should be recognized. So you talked about the accounting treatment when you were covering the issue. You talked about that this is a constructive obligation. It has a probable outflow. A reliable estimate is made. On all those bases, a provision should be recognized. Fourth point, management provision of $1.8 million is, now you find the materiality. Okay, we have the profit at 22.8 million. We had the net assets at 84.3 million, and that is what is given to us, right? So we have a profit and net assets. So we open up the calculator. We change it to the standard mode. We have a provision of we have a provision of 1.8 million divided by a profit of 22.8 million. So that is like 7.89% of the profit is 7.89% of the profit before tax. And let's find it on the net assets. The net assets are 84.3. 1.8 divided by 84.3 into 100. That's 2.13%, and 2.13% of the net assets, hence material to the financial statements. We know for asset it's 1 to 2%, for profit it's 5 to 10% to the financial statements. So we found one mark for materiality. So this is material. Management have decided against the redundancy provision, right? Because management has decided against redundancy provision, this will give rise to a material misstatement, because we've already identified a misstatement, no provision recognized. We've already commented on the materiality. So we are very sure now this is a material misstatement. This will give rise to a material misstatement in the financial statements. The auditor will issue a qualified opinion. Will issue a qualified opinion due to a material misstatement, and will explain the basis of the qualified followed by a basis of opinion paragraph, whereby the auditor will explain the reasons why a qualified opinion has been issued. See the number of points you have on the screen. I almost wrote like 6. I need 5. So you can just cut short the accounting treatment. I almost wrote like 3 points on accounting treatment. You can cut it short. Materiality, this particular paragraph is a must. Auditor will issue a qualified opinion. This paragraph is must. So you can, what I'm doing in bold is must. So you can skip this paragraph. Management has decided against the redundancy provision will give rise to a material misstatement. You can omit that, but this is the structured approach. See, I didn't abruptly answer my question. I went over the issue. I discussed the accounting treatment. I identified the percentage for materiality. I concluded this is a material misstatement. Then I went down concluding that this will give rise to a qualified opinion. This is the approach. Please ensure you read through the examiner report, identify the do's and don'ts, learn from the common issues I've addressed today, implement them in the mock exam. Do the mock exam in perfection around audit risk, responses, reporting, procedures, whatever you're doing in the mock exam. And please assure that you're very well versed with ISA 220 revised, and you've done a question around quality management issues from this exam setting. Okay, so just let's get back to my presentation. We were ending on examples from March, June 24 paper. I hope you will thoroughly like and enjoy this short webinar, which is for the next 10 days, spelling out the agenda, what you should be doing in the next 10 days time. I hope you will effectively follow the guidance, and you will reinforce and you will implement those guidance for your success in the upcoming exams. Your tutor Kashif Kamran signing off from the AA Webinars to Success for September 24. All the best to all of you.